Good evening. I am Nthabiseng Hadebe, and I welcome you all to Mental Health Indaba. Unfortunately, my co-host Wandile Mhlongo won't be joining us this evening because it's a woman's cave. Let me start by introducing my panel. I've got a social worker, soon to be doctor of philosophy. Her well of knowledge concerning mental illness never runs dry. Nthabiseng Lebina, we share the same name. Bitso, good evening. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Good evening, Bizo. Always a pleasure to be part of Mental Health Indaba. Thank you for the invite.
And then next, I have the queen of the airwaves, radio broadcaster, and a qualified electrical engineer, a woman who's extremely passionate about women empowerment. Mannehileng Letuka, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm well. And how are
We can't hear you very clear,
you? Can you hear
Mannehileng.
me? God, I think my network is
Much
it
better
much
now.
better. I'm well. Thank
Yes,
you, and
yes.
thanks for the invite. And how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thank you so much for being
Thank you
here.
so much.
And then next,
No, I was saying thank you so much. I'm excited and looking forward for the conversation.
thank you for being excited. I'm also just as excited. And then next on my panel, I have Babes, where mental health, a social worker and an author, a woman that influences the society and the government with a stream of knowledge on mental health. She has a profound insight on substance abuse, mental illness. Rethabile Lenkoe, good evening and thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm good, and Tabby, and how are you? And good evening to the other ladies on the panel.
Very good. Thank you so much for being here this evening, ladies. I was supposed to have another lady joining us as part of our panel, Patricia from Botswana. She's struggling extremely hard with her connection. I've got Dr. Ntokozo who'll join us shortly. She just knocked off. She couldn't be here by 7, but she'll join us shortly. Now, ladies, this evening we will be unpacking quite an intriguing topic, redefining success as a mom. Historically, success or the prospect of success as a mother entailed that women were basically only allowed to give birth and stay at home and do unpaid work. Now, in the modern day society, how do you, as a modern day mom, modern woman in this current time, define success as a mom? And how do you make your own statement of success as a mom? I'll start with you, Osrita.
I think for me, it's freeing yourself from the expectations of society, of what society says you need to be and how you need to behave, how you need to parent, and how you need to show up for your children. And defining success as a mother according to your own values and what is important to you and what you prioritize. I also think that at different phases of our children's lives, that definition might change. So what is important to me as a mom and what I deem as it representing that I'm successful in that role when I'm raising a 2-year-old might be slightly different when I'm raising a 14-year-old.
Very interesting. Mannehileng?
All right. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
All right. You know, I also what Rita just said, and again, it's about you setting your own goals, and that's how you're going to measure success based on the goals that you have set, and shying away from, or not necessarily shying, but moving away from the societal expectations. You know, that what also contributes to the topic that we are discussing today. Because most of the things that that put us under pressure, it's because we want to according to what people want us or perceive of. So basically, success is about the goals that you set for yourself, and you can measure success from small things. It doesn't really have to be big things and all that. But from small wins, that's where it starts. And it will build up, obviously, to the biggest things that you have set for yourself as goals that you want to achieve. Yeah.
Also, Nthabi?
Yeah, I think the ladies have shared two very important points. Is you achieving what you set for yourself and doing it the best way you know how, also realizing the different phases that you are at. And if I may add, it's success for me can starts by waking up in the morning and setting my day and saying, for me today, I would like to do this. For me today, I would like to achieve this. Because what I've learned is that success is not that bigger end goal. Success is the little things that you do in your quest for the bigger goal, in your efforts to achieve the bigger goal. When for example your child wants to be a doctor, or when your child wants to be a lawyer, they first need to get through grade RR. They first need to get through grade 1. And in grade 1, there's a class test, there's a homework, there's quarterly exams, there's half-yearly exams, and those. So even those little parts, they are part of the success. The little things that we do, showing up on a day when you don't feel like it, going against what you feel and doing what is right, going against others in order to be excluded just to achieve what you stand for and what you believe. For me, that is also success. And it's not entirely about the bigger thing in the end, but the little things, and these ones that we undermine, these ones that we take for granted, because it is exactly those ones that ends up leading us to the bigger one.
I understand that we have Patricia and Dr. Ntokozo that are here. Patricia, good evening.
Hi, Ma. How are you? Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello, Patricia.
Can you hear me?
Dr. Ntokozo?
Am I audible you now?
I can't hear them, but I'm going to allow us to continue with our conversation. You have defined success in different ways, and in a very beautiful way. Now, I'm getting distracted. I'm sorry. I see Dr. Ntokozo joining and going, oh, here they are. Good evening, ladies. Dr. Ntokozo.
Okay, good evening, ladies. I don't know if you can hear.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Hello, Patricia. How are you, sis?
I'm good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, thank you.
Just for our viewers, I'm going to introduce Patricia. Patricia is a transformational coach, businesswoman, and author. Patricia Nkwane is all the way from one of our neighboring countries, Botswana. Thank you for joining us, Patricia. Now, we've just opened the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
We just opened the conversation by defining what is success as a mother to you.
Okay. All right. Good evening once. All of the answers as I was getting in, I've heard a couple of the answers that I fully agree with a lot of what they said. To say, you know what, success is in the little milestones that we find ahead of us. Because one misconception that we've carried for a long time is we define success to mean, you know, financial freedom. We define success to mean big breaks. We define success to mean big things, and we fail to account for the tiny little milestones that we get to attain on a daily, which is like somebody, or actually what kicks open the bigger opportunities and the bigger breakthroughs that we're looking for. So for me, in short, Success is the tiny little milestones that we set for ourselves as we keep attaining them, as we keep growing, as we keep identifying and growing and finding ourselves in the journey of becoming, because one way or the other, we are becoming something different, something better on a daily. And success is when you are now content in the person that you are becoming, and you find yourself, you know, in a space where you are grateful, you are content, you are present in who you are becoming on a daily.
Mm.
Now, Dr. Ntokozo, before I come to you, I just want everyone
Have
to
I
know
lost
who are
you,
you and
or
what
am
do you
I
do?
still here with you?
No, you're still there. You're still there. Don't worry. Dr. Ntokozo is an infectious disease specialist. She is a pathologist in microbiology. Dr. Ntokozo, I'm glad that you could also join us. Now, in your view, what is success as a mother?
Okay, good evening, ladies. For me, success, I always say it's a beautiful mess. It's not like how the other ladies are describing it. It's not the end result, it's everything in between. And it varies from person to person because everyone comes from a different background. We face unique challenges and we have varying resources. But for me, as well, success is living, being content and peaceful with what you have been blessed with.
Thank you so much. Now, I want us to move to the next question. How do you ladies balance being a mom and a high achieving career woman? How do you become a present parent while traveling, positively influencing the community? And how do you nourish yourself, your physical self, and mental well being at the same time? Let me start with Osrita.
Oh, yeah. I think when it comes to balancing everything that I do as an individual, as someone that still remembers that outside of my role as a mom, I still have my own dreams and my own goals and things that I want to achieve for myself. The one thing that I've had to make peace with is that there is no such thing as balance, because when you've got your hold on one area, the other area is bound to suffer. So, for example, if I'm going away on a work trip, which is something that I need to do or want to do for my personal success as an individual, as a career woman, I need to make peace with the fact that I will not be present for my child. I might be making phone calls to check in. Hey, how are you doing? How was your day? How was school? But it's also not the same as actually being there physically with her. So I think that trying to strike a balance or trying to get to a place where you think that you are achieving this balance would also contradict what the other ladies were saying about the fact that success is messy and success is one thing today and something else the next day, and we need to be okay with these roles that constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly fluctuating. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that even as a mom, you always need to put yourself first. I always say to the clients that I work with that you are only as good as, the amount of time and investment that you put in yourself, which means that if I love my work, if I love my children, if I love what I do in my social life, my spiritual life, all of those things start with me investing in myself. And I think for the longest time as mothers, in society, we were always taught that it's everything else before you, it's your children before you. But I've come to learn, and it's very difficult, I will admit, but I've come to learn that for my child to be okay, I need to be okay. Because if I can't show up for myself, then I can't show up for my child. If I can't show up for myself, then I can't show up as the best version of who I am in my workspaces and everything else that is connected to me. So if I realize that I am the source that is the main thing connected to everything else that I deem important, then I will realize that I need to water myself and I need to pour into myself so that I can show up fully in those roles.
Mannehileng?
All right. Thank you, Osinta. I'm laughing. But the next question, I'm gonna start first because Rethabile is always taking my weight. So I give it like oh, I was gonna say that.
Well, I'm gonna start with you on the next one. Don't worry.
To be honest, I agree with what Rita says. And you got a classic example of a mother. I always say a mother, it's like a car, because you need all these things for you to function. You need all these things for you to have that balance that we are talking about, you know. And sometimes you fail even to balance on certain things, because I think it's normal, and you should allow yourself to be in that space, because we are women at the end of the day. We're not super women. There are times where on a typical day you forgot to do 1 2 3, you forgot to do a certain thing and all that, but at the end of the day, that does not mean that you have forgotten your role as a mother. You know exactly what you have to do, and in this busy life, and it's something e leng hore bomme ba bangata o fumana hore we put so much pressure on ourselves, because you want to good mother, you also want to be a good wife, and again you also want to be a good person towards yourself, because you also have dreams that you want to achieve. You have things that you also personally want to achieve, and you don't want to fail. So I think, like I'm saying, Hore, at some point we need to understand that failure, it's part of the balance that we're talking about. You can't every time be there. You can't every time everything be 100%. So what I'm trying to say is people should also understand that room it will always be there, and you should allow yourself to go in space. Number two, you spoke about how do we nourish our spirit, if I remember quite well. And I think nourishing your spirit, it all boils down to the spirituality, in terms of the relationship that we have with God. I remember, I think I was talking to one of my friends. We're talking about most of us, when we have achieved certain things, for example, you are a CEO or whatever, you having this role that you have to play at work, with that comes with a lot of responsibilities. And there's a point where it looks like we forget what actually brought us here, the grace that always we have been relying on, hore e re fihlise at this point, and immediately when we are at this point, we neglect ourselves from the spiritual point of view. And that is why you would find you get to be tempted with things like the body corruption. You get to be tempted with all these things that are happening in the workplace, because now that car that brought you here, you have now neglected it. You don't service it anymore. You're not doing it, whatever that you're supposed to be doing. So it's always important to the relationship with God. How important is it? So that one talks to the issue, yeah, spiritual. How do we nourish ourselves spiritually? So yeah, I think that's my 2 cents on that one, Kelebo.
So I like the interesting views that come across. Also, Nthabi,
You know,
what's your take?
for me, it has always been simple. The quickest thing that I've had to learn was that there is something called priorities, setting things in order of priority. Sometimes as mothers, we lack to find balance because we want to do everything. We want to be everywhere. We want to satisfy everyone. But if we can understand that you can get to everything, but in order of their priority, prioritize. And in that process of prioritizing, just because something is at the bottom, it doesn't mean it is less important. It is important, but in terms of the hierarchy of priorities, it belongs there. It also shows up when we have to balance being parents to our children as well. If you have more than one child, you cannot show up for them the same way all the time. If there is an 18-year-old who is at hospital and there's a 2-year-old who's at home, in the hierarchy of priorities, surely that 18-year-old at that time tops my list, and I can always ask someone to care for my 2-year-old. So if we can just allow ourselves to follow that as mothers, to understand that we're not superhuman, as Ausi has said. And that being said, we will get to everyone, we will get to everything, but let's just have order and focus, one thing at a time. There's really no need for us to want to do everything at the same time, because that is when we also lack progress. That is also when we cannot even monitor the progress, and that is also a pressure comes in as well. But when you do this, get it done, come here, get it done. All right, let's prepare the clothes, let's get breakfast, let me iron my clothes, let me study, let me everything in its own time. You flow in your road. Even when you falter, still is fine. We pick ourselves up and we continue. If we can just give ourselves that grace and don't put ourselves under that pressure of being everywhere all the time, being reachable to everyone all the time, that one, it's not going to happen. It's where we feel most of the pressure and we then conclude that we are not balanced. But if you do one thing at a time, that is still balanced, because there's also success and you can measure. And within that list of priority, rest, something that Rita spoke about, yourself. You cannot prioritize everything and you are not there in that list of priorities. Then your list is incomplete. Thank you.
Sis Pat,
Emma,
what's your take?
I didn't get the question, but judging by what they are saying, we are talking about priorities, right? Just correct me if I'm wrong.
We're talking about how do you balance between being a career
Mm-hmm.
woman and being a present mom, and also being able to take care of your physical, spiritual, and
Okay.
mental health.
I think one of the things that I found to really be working for me is being in a position where I allow time for me. I intentionally create time for me. Because one thing that I realized is I'm better off for my family, I'm better off for my son when I am at my most mentally present, stable, happy, peaceable me. So in all the trials, in all the, whether it's the business, whether it's family, whether it's, I first try to have a moment where it's me by me to just get me to gear me back to center, so I'm able to give them. Because one thing for sure that we all know is you can't give what you don't have, whether it's love, it's mercy, it's peace. But firstly, it's me allowing myself to extend grace to me, so I can be in a position where I deal with everything else from the abundance and the overflow of what is inside of me. So hence why, firstly, for me, it's the spiritual part of it also, it matters for me, because that is where I refuel myself. And then also the meditative part, the part of me trying to find my balance. And then after that, also somebody talked about an issue, the issue of priorities, being in a position where it is clear to you, Nthabi, that you can never have everything in a balance, in a straight up balance. you can never have it all working at once in a straighter balance. One way or the other, there will always be something that needs you in the now. There will always be something that needs you more than all the other things. But it's about you being in a position where you understand your priorities and you also understand your negotiables and your non-negotiables. Being in one of the things that I normally say when I'm talking to mothers is be in a position where you are okay with saying no to certain things and understanding that you cannot be at all places and you cannot be there for everyone at the same time. So in priorities is understanding that, okay, fine, there are things that will need me in the now, and there are people that will need me in the now, but I also have to stay in my balance. I also have to create a me time, and in creating a me time also, I also have to be there for the things that need me, but I'm not going to be there for everything, because at the end of the day, I can't be all over. Because one of the mistakes we make is trying to please everyone at an inconvenience of ourselves, trying to be there for everyone at an inconvenience of ourselves. And at the end of the day, that is where we get overwhelmed. Somebody said to me some time back to say, as a woman, as Black women, we don't break, we bend. And I said to them, but that is so wrong. If you are going to try to be flexible for everything, you are going to reach a level where you reach a bend off, you get overwhelmed, and then you fail to show up for the things that needs you the most in those moments. So to avoid falling apart when we least want to, let's be in a position where we are able to understand that in all things it matters if I can be for me, and then extend me to play to the things that need me, but also understanding I can't multitask, I can't be in all places. And being in a position also, I think, let me add this one, being also comfortable with asking for help.
Mm. Mm.
Very interesting. Dr. Ntokozo?
Okay. My journey is a bit interesting because I'm a mom to one, and for most people, I know they think it's a bit easier when you have one child, but it has taught me that I have to assume multiple roles, so it becomes a bit more strenuous for me because I have to be a sister, a brother, a friend, and a mom at the same time. But over the years, I just used my own parents' experiences and other successful parents so that how I balance my career and being a mom, I had to learn to build a relationship, a trust-based relationship with my son. So communication was high up on the list so that he understands that as much as my job is important, he is also important. And I also created a safe space for him so that he's secure to share about his vulnerabilities without a fear of judgment. And I started very early with him from about 9 to just have those deep age appropriate engagements, just to help him understand that life is complex, his life is different, because he's my only child. So a lot of what he encounters, unlike other children, he needs to deal with that with me. But I cannot always be there for him because there is a career also that I need to nurture so that he is able to live a comfortable life. So I think that helped a lot because we still have those engagements even now, and I ask him how he feels about certain situations and how we can improve our relationship. So, as a nutshell, I'll say trust and open communication has been the cornerstone of being able to balance being a mom and a career woman.
The interesting facts that I took out of this question. Also, Tabi, you spoke about priorities. Also, Mannehileng, you emphasized the importance of spirituality and recognizing grace. Also, Rita, you spoke about alternatives. You're a parent, you're aware there are other means whereby you can make your presence felt, yet you are in another city or maybe another province or another country. Patricia, you spoke about time for yourself, replenishment. Uh, Dr. Ntokozo, you just spoke about trust and communication with your son. Now, This is a beautiful way to answer this question. Before I come now, I want to tap into my next question and say, out of everything that you have spoken, or out of the different views that came out from this previous question, how do you then free yourself from subjecting yourself to the prison of definitions that do not align with your values? Osman Nele, let me start with you.
Uh,
Honoring the promise.
Thank you, Nta. Very nice question. I think this goes to understanding and knowing who you are, you know? And I think as a person, we all have principles that one would say, this is my principle of life. Obviously, align yourself to such. So I'm just being disturbed here. There's a phone call that is coming in here. Sorry, now it keeps on distracting me. I just want to also I think your question has three or two elements that I just want to note them here. Can you just repeat it for me again?
How do you,
Mm-hmm.
from everything that has been said in the previous question, how do you not allow yourself to be subjected to the prison of definitions that do not align with what you value?
Correct. Okay, you spoke about, I'm highlighting the prison, I'm highlighting values. Ne? Now, I'm going back to what I said earlier. It goes to who is Mannehileng, who is Nthabiseng, and the principles that you live upon as a person. They always remind you not to be subjected to anything that you don't believe in. That is very important. And again, it's very much important for women, for mothers to speak their mind. I believe that I'm one person that believe if something I believe, I think I should do it a certain way, I will do it because I have my own reasons why I'm doing that. And for me, when I'm doing that, I'm not doing it where I would be disrespecting anybody. I will not be doing this because I'm trying to hurt anybody, but I am doing this because I see it fit and it's going to work for me. So it means I have put myself first in every chance that I get. I come first in everything that I come across in life, that I encounter. I come first, and it's all about um, the values, that I believe that at the end of the day they reflect who I am, the person that I am, and the principles that I live according to. The reason why I keep saying I first, I this first, I this first, because most of the time we are afraid to take that position because we always think or we are worried about other people. What are people going to say? You know, uh, it can be anywhere at work. Maybe there's a new project that is coming, and they say, okay, fine, we want people who they can nominate themselves for this. I mean, it's those smaller kind of things where you would find we restrict ourselves because we are thinking, I can't nominate myself because Rita, she's gonna think that I didn't tell her, or Nthabiseng is gonna say whatever. So what I'm trying to say is, you should never ever, at any given point or moment in your life, forget yourself. As mothers, we forget because every time it's about my kids, it's about the whole family structure, the husband, and even the work, even our jobs. We put them first before us, and we neglect who we are. And the moment that you neglect who you are, that's where it's going to be easy for you to fall for a trap. You are get to be subjected to anything, and already that thing, it's going to bring sort of a fear, you know, or self-imposed. Yeah, it's going to trigger that self-imposed, that we all have that self-imposed, and it gets to be triggered by certain things, you know. But we always have to be reminded of who we are, the values that, you know, that defines you, your principles. If we can get that one right, I think everything is going to be easy. And understand, know your values, your principles, your everything. The rest comes after. If we can get that phenomenon very right, and we shouldn't be apologetic about it, you know, then everything, I think it will fall into place. I know it's very difficult, and others, they don't even understand that, but maybe it's a high time that people honestly should really take it very, very serious and understand that every time, let us learn to put ourselves first. Let us learn to take our role in our lives. Take your position in your very own life, because immediately you don't get to hold your position. That's where the misalignment may come in. Thank you.
Dr. Mzimela?
Okay. I'd also agree with you how I claim a comprehensive definition of success without subjecting myself to pleasing is by staying true to myself. It's understanding that my journey doesn't have to look like else to be valid and meaningful. So self-reflection helps for me knowing my limits, knowing what I can do and what I can't do. So I'm able to reach out for help when I feel like I'm falling. So I also strongly believe in the philosophy of Ubuntu, which I am because we are, because it honestly takes a village for one to succeed. We all find success as like it should be a one person phenomenon, always contributed by people that are around you. So that sense of belonging community, I believe it's important for us to be able to continue where we are. And I really, respect the family and community systems because I believe they were designed to help us to move forward and to make us stronger, not to create competition or comparison, because that what will make us feel like we're in prison because comparing ourselves to other people. But we know ourselves and we know there are things that we cannot achieve without help from others, then it will help us to free ourselves and continue to strive for our goals. Yeah, that's all for me.
Thank you. Also, Nthabi?
Sure. What a beautiful feedback from the ladies. I think I'll repeat what they've said. Authenticity is key, and with our values define who we are, and who we are define or explains our values. So that relationship with yourself in terms of finding who you are and what you stand for, because once you know that, you know what you will be authentic to. You will know what authenticity is for you and what it means. Then is your values that are attached to who and what you know yourself to be. Once we get those two, then you can never be forced, or you can never be under pressure to be anything that you are not. And if I have to elaborate further, I think I'll repeat what the ladies have said, but I'm typically saying the same thing but putting it in a different way: being authentic and owning your identity. that will always set you apart, and you will always know what you stand for, and you would never, it's easy, it won't be easy for you to fall into a trap, because you know who you are and what your values are.
Pat?
Yeah, I think maybe let me start off by saying there's been a lot that has already been said so far, but one other thing that I wanted to add to the lot that has been said is one thing that I noticed is, you know, as women, we are surrounded by so many expectations, and the expectation in terms of, you know, what we are supposed to do, how we are supposed to behave as mothers, what is expected of us to do as mothers. But the most important thing is for you to find your contentment, for you to find your space, and for you to be content in that space. If there's one thing that I think for me was a forehand decision, was I made it clear that, you know what, I'm not going to heal my own wounds and my own traumas through my son, but I'm going to allow myself to find me, to heal me, and to be content in my skin. And then from there, I'm going to allow the me that is healed to now be the me that leads him from a healed space. And that for me became one of the most important things, because it allows you to now rebuild your values. We come from a making where we have always been taught to put everybody else before us. So it has always been about what everybody else needs. You know, growing up as a young girl, we grew up in households where even when we were in the kitchen with our mothers as they're preparing supper for everybody else, you'll see your mother making sure that everybody's pap is prepared properly in a beautiful plate. And then one way or the other, she'll pull up a crappy plate and she'll be like, no, no problem, that's me. That will be my food. And she'll just put it up, whether it's fully decorated like everybody else or put up nicely like everybody else. Well, hey, response will be, but that's for me to eat. But then you, in those tiny little things, we get to the making of, okay, fine, it's okay to put yourself in the back burner and to put up everybody else, until you get to a space where, you know, you are now giving from an empty cup, and you are now parenting from an angry space. You are now parenting from a bleeding space. And it is important in allowing yourself now to find your center space. That's how you get yourself out of this prison of perfection, the prison of now tying yourself up into one space, but being in a position where you allow yourself first to heal, and then you allow yourself to redefine who Patricia is, and to find contentment for Patricia. And then from there, find a way to define expectations, to defy all the expectations. Defying expectation doesn't mean me going around and stepping in everybody's toes. Defying expectation is finding what will work for me, and then allowing me to run my race in my chapter, and knowing fully well that my race is not going to be like somebody, it's not going to be like Priscilla's race, it's not going to be, and one way or the other, my kids may not be like Nthabi's kids, may not be like Lerato's kids, and I'm going to be me, and I'm going to go on and deal with what I have from the space of authenticity as well, like somebody has already said, being genuine and authentic and clear with self.
Also, Rita?
I think the next time you must have us in bits and pieces, no? Because there's so much that is said already, and that is really so insightful and accurate and relevant to the discussion. By the time that the question gets to you, you're just sitting there thinking, what do I add to everything else that's already being said? But I think for me personally, you know, it's awareness of self. And this was said by a number of the ladies on the panel. that you need to be aware of who you are. You need that insight, because you will not be able to free yourself from the prison of society's expectations if you don't know who you are. The reason why people are bound to expectations by family, by society, by colleagues, by people who are looking on, is because they are not at the place where they truly know who they are. And because they don't know who they are still looking for that external validation. I need to do it in this way so that mother-in-law can approve of the decisions that I'm making and the way in which I choose to raise my children, or even my own family, or even my own colleagues. But I think once you have put in the work and you are comfortable with the person that you are, you know that yes, you are open to inputs from other people, but those inputs don't get to dictate how you need to show up, why you show up as a parent. And I was speaking to one of my clients the other day. We were sitting in my office, and I said to the specific lady, I said, do you see that chair where you are sitting? If you don't start taking the process seriously and you don't commit to working on yourself, you risk that in a few years' time, your child is going to be sitting on that same chair, probably with a different therapist, but now having to work through the things that you didn't work through as a mother. You know what Patricia was saying? When you parent from a place where you are bleeding, it's not even, it doesn't even allow you to say, these are my values and these are the things that I align with. Because, unresolved trauma is something very interesting, because we can function day to day, and on the outside, on the surface, it looks like everything is fine, but actually when you dig deeper, you'll find that there's a lot of people who have taken on trauma responses and adopted those trauma responses, and have mistaken those trauma responses to be their personality. No, nah, I'm just ke motho o bogale, but that thing comes from somewhere. And maybe if you go back and you look at your childhood and how your mom spoke to you, or how your dad spoke to you, or how your parents even spoke to each other in the house, you will realize, "Okay, no, this is not a case of this is who I am. It's just something that I learned because it was normalized in the environment that I grew up in. And if I want to show up differently, as a parent, as a mom, away from society's expectations, it's first also tearing apart where these expectations come from, because some of the things that we are to live up to are things that were always there. This is how it was always done. But in hindsight, where you take a closer look at those situations, you realize, "Oh, no, man, there's a lot of things that our parents did that were positive, but there were also a lot of things that our parents did that we should really shy away from." And one of those things, Doctor said it when she was talking about open communication with your children. That is so important. But we also grew up in an era where, as a child, you were seen and not heard, and you were just told to do certain things, but no explanation. And I see it so often with my daughter because of the kind of relationship that we have. She will ask me a question. I just know her that this is how it was always done. I was told to do it in this way. But when she says why, I'm not able to give a response because we were never afforded the opportunity to ask those questions. And again, I think it goes back to what Nthabi was saying about the small things. In order for me to win in the bigger scheme of things, it also entails breaking small everyday habits that I partake in as a mom, in how I parent, that I know will not benefit the kind of person I'm trying to raise, and definitely not the kind of relationship I'm trying to build with my daughter.
Hmm. Very interesting views. I took away a lot. Values were mentioned, authenticity was mentioned, self-awareness was mentioned. Now, nowadays, women are occupying leadership positions in various avenues, and they're earning higher salaries. Now, as a mom, how do you come to acceptance about your family's financial state and not succumb to the pressure or peer pressure of being a mom regarding certain things that you cannot afford? Because sometimes we look at social media and we see people, or it seems as if people are living their lives, their best lives. A child has got two parents that can afford to do X, Y, and Z. You are a single mother, or even if both parents are present in the child's life, they cannot achieve certain things financially. So now, when we look at social media, it kind of takes us back to think that we have not yet achieved the things that we are supposed to achieve at certain particular time. How do you, as ladies, avoid the self pressure? I'll start with Pet. Let me start with you.
Okay. A couple of days back, I set up with a group of moms, and we were talking about parenting and everything. And somebody raised up a point to say, our kids are very, very expensive. They're not like us. They're very, very expensive. And I said to them, you know what? In my opinion, kids are not expensive. It is our thoughts, our desires, and our wants that makes our kids expensive. If you are earning a 3,000 pula salary and you decide to have your child in a school that is paid 12,000 annually, at the end of the day, it was a decision that you made. It was a choice that you made. And I think it goes on to us finding we've been talking about authenticity, finding our true self, being in a position where you can be as truthful as possible with yourself, with your finances, and being in a position where also you communicate, like somebody already said, you communicate. And I noticed with me, I'm in a space at first, yes, it wasn't always easy for me because I had my child when I was pretty young. We basically grew up together, I would say. But it got to a point it got to a point where certain things I would have to sit down with him as he grew up to say, no, 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 no. As for 1, 2, 3, 4, we can be able to afford it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we can't afford it. And we are not going to do it. I know everybody is going for this, but at this point in time, your mother can't afford it. So basically, you're going to have to sit it out. And I would also be in a position where it's not just about talking. When we say communication, we are not talking about you as the mother telling the child. We are talking about you also as the mother being in a position where you allow yourself to listen as well. As we are talking about what is possible and what's not possible in regard to the money that is coming in our household. I should be in a position where I listen as well. So many times I work with kids on a daily, and you realize that most of them, when they now come to complain about what is happening in the household, you realize as a parent, sometimes we tend to take the complaining and everything to mean, oh, she wants more money, she wants more clothes, when in actual fact, if you are to sit and listen, you realize all they needed, it's not for them to go on a trip to Cape Town. All they needed was time with you. And it's only if you are able to sit and listen where you realize, okay, fine. And eventually it helps you to cut out on a lot of the expenditures. When you sit down with your child, you realize, whoa, but with them, the way they express it, they are better off in a different school than the expensive school that you got them in. They are better off with a certain pair of shoes than the expensive shoe that you saw your friend having. And also running your own race, being in your lane is so important. We work in a setup where we meet people that are of different values than us. We meet people that are in a different race than us, and also in a different financial space than us. So if I'm to be in a position where I tie myself down to saying all my friends' children are in Northside Primary, so I'm going to have my son in that school. Or all my friends' children are doing this, I'm going to have my son do this as well. When you know your finances can't permit that, it becomes overbearing and overwhelming to you. Eventually, you start living in credits, and without realizing, eventually you are in a way creating something else that your child would have to now heal from later on in stage, because whether it's trauma comes from a lot of things. Trauma comes in different forms, in different spaces. And if we are not true to ourselves, we eventually end up causing our children to bleed something that it could have been long, it could have been solved by just communicating and being in a position where you are genuine with yourself.
Dr. Mzimela?
I also strongly agree with Opet in terms of sometimes we don't realize that we're spending money just to feed ourselves more than the children, and the children just follow suit from what you are teaching them. So, but how I've learned to live within my means as a mom. I actually learned it from my dad, because when we were growing up, he was very firm in terms of buying us what he can afford. You know, when you're growing up, people in our times, everyone would have like Dr. Martens, everyone in that hood would have Dr. Martens, and then you would also want Dr. Martens. So when you used to say bonke abantu have, he used to ask you, is your name bonke? Are you bonke? Do you want those shoes because you like them, or you want them because everyone? It taught me, I applied the same principles to my son, because I asked him, do you want this because everyone wants it, or do you want it because you love it? And he taught us actually social identity, because even now at my age, I don't buy things just because everyone is having a Gucci bag. Then I'm gonna buy a Gucci bag. I'm gonna buy a bag because I want that bag and I love that bag. So that's how I managed to live within my means. And I've also learned that I self-taught the money conversations with my son. It's difficult conversations, but I felt they have made a difference. In how we spend and in how he spends as well. Because we talk about it, we revise it, we plan, we have an emergency fund. And so we have constant conversations over, we plan ahead and we go back and we check this month. What did we spend more money on? What can we do to change and not spend this money? Little things like lunch. Why can't we just carry supper instead of buying lunch at work every day? So it's those little things that I've learned to pay attention to. So we maintain to live within our means, and I've just modeled to my son contentment and gratitude in the little things that we have, so that he learns to appreciate, the life, and knowing that he should spend his money on the things that he really needs, or over the things that he wants, basically. Yeah.
Also, Mannehileng?
All right. Thank you, Nta. I honestly agree with the ladies. What they said, I do agree with them. And just to add on that, I think number one, it's embracing your own financial state of being. It all starts there, and to accept that this is what I can afford, you know, this is what how much I earn, and I can only do certain things and one, two, three. And it comes with maturity, because most of us, like you mentioned, the issue of social media, uh, which most of us, we are, you know, or majority of the people, they get to be influenced by, So obviously, when you are matured, you know your space, you know your line. I think Sis Pet spoke about being in your own lane. It's very much important. And again, also, we need to be able to speak to our kids. We don't have to lie to our kids anymore. Like Rita said, Hore, the way we were brought up, our age, you don't have to ask anything. Don't do it. Why? No, don't even ask why,
Mm.
but we need to be honest with our kids. Sit down with them that mommy and daddy, or mommy, she cannot afford this, my baby, uh, but she will afford this, and kids, they they are what we say to them, or what we feed them. Obviously, the response, it will be exactly like that. But if you don't have that uh, space where you are able to speak to your kids and be honest with them, it's unfortunate, and it's going to be bad for them when they grow up, because you wouldn't be giving them the exact thing. I think that space, it's very important, or we should be honest with our kids. We should teach them. They learn, and they will definitely learn, and they will even love you more because you being honest to them. And if in future, I mean, in life, it's going to help them. They will also live with the very same principle, even when they have more than what their parents could have by then. But because they were taught to respect and to be open, to be honest, obviously they will have much respect to whatever that they have, and gets to be multiply. And then the other issue, ne, again, we have to be, there's at times, for example, and I'm going to make an example with myself, um where I was previously working, ne, at the municipality. Very nice job, benefits, everything, you know and it happened that I lost my job because of politics and all that. And you find another job, but it's not paying as good as that other one, and that's where comes the issue of, you now have to sit down and try to scale down. A very difficult thing to do, especially if you were used to certain things, so that is very important, because that space, it's between you and your family. That's where you are able to that's where you're supposed to draw a line, and you cut all these other people. What are people going to say? The society, and the friends, the family, and it helps a lot, because now it gives you a space to be able to map out your finances accordingly, to map out your life in general accordingly, up until that point where you have now re-established yourself, and you get to be back again on your feet, and then life continues. So what I'm trying to say is, if life comes to a point where things are not going according to what you are used to, don't be afraid to scale down. It's normal, it's life. And the most important thing is, for as long as God has still blessed you with your life, I mean, you can triple whatever that can, you know, kore e ka ba- e ka tla 10 times. You understand? So that's the other issue that I wanted to emphasize. And then the other one, okay, I spoke about, and okay, I spoke about embracing the state of your finances. It's very important. And I spoke about the issue of maturity. And then the other one, just in conclusion, that I want to highlight, I think the other thing that kills us, it's the comparison that we normally find ourselves in, because now you get to compare yourself with a certain person because of your friends, just the lifestyle in J, and especially people that you get to hang around with, could be your friends or the social club that you have. You just want to fit in, by trying to be a certain way, or trying to get certain things that sometimes you don't even afford them, you know and just for the sake of social media, for the sake of limelight, you just trying to be relevant. And at the end of the day, when you go and sleep, the pressure gets to be on you alone. So those are the things that we really have to speak about as moms, and we really have to be careful of what we also get ourselves into, because sometimes you would get to be around wrong people, and then who would come and give all these lot of advices. So it also boils back to the issue of, Who are you? What do you want? Are these things that you are doing, are they going to work for you? Is this really what you want in your life? So every time when you feel pressured, or want to do anything that you feel that, "Ish, I'm not sure," I mean, those are the questions that you really have to ask yourself. What thing, embrace your financial state, and accepting that I can only live according to this, but also not uh, trying to put yourself in that corner of, uh, like, it's like, wa ikwalla tsela, you also have to be open at some point, or hona jwale re se re bua ka di-multiple streams of income. So you need to have that flexibility as well. You need to have that flexibility as well. Again, just not to contradict myself, but somewhere, somehow, we need that smaller and a pressure, but it takes a sense of mental, I don't know, maybe for you to not to uska you know but understand, what I'm trying to say is, sometimes you need competition, because it helps to be on your tools. How do you say it? Then you also see what, people are doing this, so that you don't only rely on, this is what I earn, there's nothing I can do, I'm just here. Because at the end of the day, we all want soft life, but let it come at the right time. Let it come ka tsela e right, so that it does not also compromise your integrity. It does not also compromise your values, the principles that we spoke about. So do it, smart, do it wisely, and ka nako tsohle, for everything to go well as a mother in life, you need wisdom more than anything else. Thank you.
Also, Rita?
Whenever we have this conversation, or people have this conversation around social media and its influence, I'm always like, thank God I'm such a rebel, because I don't think there's anything on social media that actually affects me more than it should. Like, I'm my own person. I understand that my journey is my own. Like, I don't go on social media and look at people having certain handbags and shoes and going to certain places, and I feel like a pressure to also adhere or live up to what they are doing. So I'm thankful for the type of person that I am. I think I'm also boring. So being boring is not necessarily a bad thing, because it also helps you to stay away from a lot of things. But I want to say that I think open communication again is important. I'm also, I think one of the ladies said it, I just forgot who it was. I am also one of those parents that will have open discussions with my daughter about my finances and how things look, to a point where she has now gotten into the habit of saying, "Mommy, can I have this when you have money?" Or, "Mommy, on my birthday," like her birthday would be 6 months away, but she knows already to prepare me in time for what it is that she wants, because she understands that if you tell me a week before, a month before, I might not have the means to be able to provide that to you. But I also just want to go back to what Sis Patricia was saying, making a very good example about the choice of schools, that sometimes parents put themselves under unnecessary pressure, not because the kids are asking for specific things, but because they are trying to show off or give off this facade of, "I've got it covered and I can afford and I can do certain things." And in the process, parents sometimes overlook that maybe that is the best school in Bloom, but when you look at your child's capabilities and your child's personality traits, that specific school, however good it is, might not be a good fit for your child. Now, you also have situations where a child will be, for example, in a certain school, you can afford the school fees, né, of that school, but you forget that in some of these schools, there's also a lifestyle that goes with being there. So now, yes, you are able to pay monthly or whatever the case may be, but for the better part, your child doesn't fit in, because when the other children during breaks are having conversations, they don't fit into the lifestyle of the other parents who have their kids in that school. And I also think that it goes back to what I was saying about the importance of working on yourself as a parent, because some of these financial decisions that people, parents take, for example, also come from, let's say, mom guilt. I'm a single parent. Dad is not in the picture. He doesn't show up. So what do? I overcompensate by giving the child everything that they want or that they ask for. And in the process, I drown financially because I'm not able to live the standard that I've created for myself. Or maybe I grew up in a household where mom and dad didn't have much. You know, they struggled to provide even basic things. So now, instead of realizing that, Rita, maybe you need to go speak to someone about this, so that, as Patricia was saying earlier on, so that you heal, so that you don't parent from a place of a person that is bleeding. Instead of doing that, what do? I now give my child everything that I didn't have growing up. But then in the process, I also don't realize that maybe I also take away from my child the ability to learn certain skills, because the truth is we also need to our children for the outside world. I always say to my daughter, I'm not raising you for me. I am raising you for the world, because I understand that I'm not always going to be there to protect, to cover up, to take care of things. And they also need to know that you're not always going to win in this life thing. That is unfortunately just the way that it is. They also need to know that you are not always going to pass. You're not always going to succeed. There's going to be times where you get it wrong. There's going to be times where you make the wrong decisions. I can only provide the foundation for you, but I cannot do the work for you. But if you as a mom put yourself in that situation or in that position where you feel like I need to show up for everything financially, even if it drowns me in the process, you might be taking away from what your child needs to learn, but you can also be taking away from what you would be able to achieve if you had discipline when it comes to your finances, if you knew that you need to make certain sacrifices. Mannehileng also spoke about downscaling. There's nothing wrong with starting over. And we also need to be okay as parents to start over. If I need to leave a certain situation because it's unhealthy, and that means that there's now one less income in that household, if it puts me in a better position in terms of my mental well-being and the emotional space that I'm in that allows me to show up fully for my children, I should be able to take or be willing to at least take that decision. So I really think that, again, it also goes back to that self-awareness, realizing, I don't need to be everything to everyone, and I don't need to do everything that everyone is doing and drown myself in the process.
Also, Nthabi?
What do you say after the ladies have said so much? I think for me, this is where I appreciate my childhood when I have to deal with such. If there's anything that I've learned from my childhood growing up, my mom was a single mother, and she bought a bond house. I think 2 years down the line, she lost her job. So she was not working. She was a single mom. And I can tell you, that woman gave us herself. She didn't have money, but she gave us herself. That's what I've learned. That's what I grew up with. That's the first thing that came to my mind when I became a mom, that my kids, I'm going to give them me. So when I am dealing with situations where finances are not in my favor, or I feel I cannot do for them as much as I want to, I always remember that I am showing up. I'm content in the fact that I'm showing up and I'm giving them things that money can never give them. I'm giving them me. I'm giving them my love. I'm giving them my authentic self. And is it always easy? No, it's not easy, because sometimes there are also things that you wish to do for your child, for your children as a mother. But I tap myself in my shoulder and I give myself a hug and I say, I know that I'm doing the best that I can. I take comfort in that you know what? Yes, I would have loved to do beyond, but I'm doing the best that I can. I cannot undermine the best that I'm doing. Do the children always understand? Truth is, no, they don't always understand. Sometimes you tell them, you sit them down, I don't have this, I don't have that, and you see the disappointment in their faces. You see the pain in their faces. It's not nice, but this is also where you count on yourself to say how I dealt with the situation should count for something some other days when they are matured, because they're also still children and they think like children. So sometimes even if we may reason with them, but because of where they are cognitively, we may not make sense then. But I hope that one day when they sit back and reflect, they will learn something from that instance to say, even though I was disappointed, but honestly, this was the best, because that is what finally happened to me. Just to share a little bit, my mom would walk a distance to go fetch my report. We asna chelta taxi. And when she comes back, ha ne se ke kena high school, ntlo ya ko hae e shebane le strata where she would be coming. I would be standing outside and she'd be walking with my report and I'd be running to her. Those are the moments that I would always cherish. She didn't have a car to put me in the car, so we go in a fancy car to get my report. She would walk for an hour to go get my report and walk back for an hour. But that hug when we met, when she came with that report, her excitement, how she would be, you know, waving it in the air. Those are the moments that I'm living with. So for me, that taught me that, you know, sometimes we put so much I don't have to put so much pressure on myself on what I can give to my children on the outside, but I should focus on giving them things that even money can never give them. Things that even when I had millions, they wouldn't matter if I didn't give them this. That has always been my approach to parenting, and also trying to find a balance between affordability and my wish. And also, I was laughing the other day, just making a comparison to say, you know, my feeling ha ke le ko pep, la ke le ko foshing, ha di tshwane. So why why should ke go for shini ha ile ke tlo gutla ke le stressed? No, ke ya go pep, because go pep ke gutla ke le happy. Ha ke bone next, I just see plastics settling. So go where I can afford. It in terms of the outings, it's not about where you are, it's who I'm with, is the memories that I can create with my children. Even if it's just an ice cream, even if I don't take them to fancy restaurants where it's the fancy names and whatnot, but I make sure that the time that we spend together is worth it. It's those little things that I don't take for granted. I've always taught myself to look for things that where money cannot take me, it's not a limit. I have the capability to go beyond where money can take me. And I've also come to learn that it is not always about what we can give our kids financially, but it is about what we can give them, things that can never be priced, things that you can never put a price tag on. They also matter. And because of the pressures and everything that is where we are now, we have neglected those things, and that is why we sometimes feel insufficient. Yet we can change our perceptions in terms of how we do life and how we look at it, which would also help us to understand where we are.
Before we conclude our conversation, I have one question that I find to be quite essential. As a mom, we often decide on the consequences of inappropriate behavior that our children display. And it is not always guaranteed that the consequences might propel them to change their behavior.
Mm.
As a mother, how do you avoid attaching your emotions to your child or children's behavior? Also, Nthabi, I'm gonna start with you on this one, because I saw a post that you made. You were speaking about your son returning to school after a week's suspension, and I think shortly after that it was his birthday, and now you had to celebrate his birthday. How do you switch emotions like that?
You know, if there's one approach that I have taken when it comes to parenting, if I don't want it done to me, I'm not going to do it to my child.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what it is. If something does not sit well with me, surely I cannot expect my child to be well with it. I'm not perfect. We are human. Sometimes we lose it. But what I've normalized is that I'd rather have few um moments where I lose control than it be a norm for me to always lose control. So how I switch is I always ask myself, if this was done to me, how would I feel? So before the suspension, we were excited about the birthday. If you had promised me something, I would expect you to go ahead with it. Don't punish me by taking away what you have promised me. And I don't believe in instilling pain in the name of discipline. Deliberately, intentionally saying, yeah, I'll do this, knowing what it's gonna hurt my child, and I'm doing that in the name of discipline. I don't believe in that. So this is where that's where I call myself the conscious parenting group, because then it means you always need to account to yourself for the decisions and the behavior that you display to your child in your relationship with them. And I always thrive for connection. I look for connection over control. I don't want to control my children. I want to connect with them. So even if at times connecting means losing control, I'm happy with it. What do I mean by that? Certain times we don't see our kids as human, right? So any normal human behavior, because it is displayed by a child, we tend to treat it as something that's odd. But when you understand that your child is human, I'll make an example so that I give what I'm saying context. You don't want it when someone come and takes your stuff without your permission. You don't want that. But when your 2-year-old is playing with their car and another child comes and take that, and your child wants to fight for their car and take it back, you discipline your child. You say, no, you can't be doing that. Share what. So you wouldn't allow that to yourself, but your child must allow it. So sometimes we need to fight for connection and not being in control. And sometimes connection means putting aside yourself and allowing your child to be. Sometimes you need to sit there as a parent and listen to your child tell you that you are wrong. I don't like what you did. And yes, teenagers, they would say it in the most horrible way. Believe you me, at that point, I'll keep quiet when I see that this person is emotional. I'll address the how part later, not at that time. When the person is upset, when the person is expressing their pain, and I would be wanting, no, I will let them express and later come back to say, even if you can be angry, that is not how we speak. Choose your words correctly, have better ways of expressing your anger. And it's working. And I'm seeing results. Not everywhere, but little by little, because raising children is like watering a seed. You just keep watering, even if there's nothing that's coming out, with the hope that one day that seed will die and the fruits will show up. So, yeah, let me stop there, because when it comes to parenting, I get very emotional, because also when we parent our kids, we tend to turn a blind eye to the things that we know that they went through, the experiences that they've been through, but because we want them to be perfect, we turn a blind eye to certain realities that are shaping who they are. So it's sad also what we put our children through as parents in the name of discipline. And I wish one day we can understand that you can discipline your child in a loving manner, and your child can still feel loved in your moment of rage and in that process of discipline. It doesn't have to include hurting your child deliberately. They will be hurt because they are human, they don't like what they're happening, but they won't be hurt because you are deliberately doing something to hurt them in the name of discipline.
Also, Retta?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a conversation that me and Nthabiseng have had off the platforms, and our view on these disciplinary camps and disciplining. And I think outside of mental health, one other passion that me and her seems to share is a soft heart for children with behavioral disorders, because they belong to a community that is neglected. People do not understand. It's always like, this child is being difficult, or this child is not being disciplined, and as a result you find them in situations where the school doesn't want to have them. I manage a facility for youth at our rehab, where we admit children under the age of 18 who are using substances. And you can imagine, I always say it's such a complex combination, because they are teenagers, one. Two, they were using substances. Three, some of them have these behavioral disorders like your conduct disorder, your ADD, your ADHD. They are not on medication. So if there's one place, I think, outside of my own child, that really tests me when it comes to parenting, it's where I work every day, because you constantly have to find yourself fluctuating between being their therapist but also being their parent, knowing when to be soft but also knowing when to be hard with them. And a lot of these children come to us when the world had already written them off as problem children, will never amount to anything. This child is not going to change. And it's so interesting when you read the referring reports that the social workers write when they apply for these kids to come to us. You will read the most horrendous and scary things in that report. But once that child is there, and they have structure, and they have someone that actually takes time to listen to them and hear them out, to reprimand, but to still sort of assure them that you matter and I care for you. It's amazing the change that we see in these kids. And I'm just affirming what Nthabiseng was saying. And I think for me personally, with my own child, I've had to apologize a lot of times. I apologize all the time, because I do it. What I say here as a social worker slash therapist working with kids, and what happens in my home every day, don't always align, because at the end of the day, you take off that title, you are now mom, and then mom doesn't always get it right. Mom sometimes forgets that, and I'm fortunate to have a child that will say to me, Mommy, did you think how it made me feel when you said this and that? And allowing and that platform where she can speak openly to me, and for me to acknowledge and apologize, I think it goes a long way, in building that relationship where she understands that I don't approve of what you did, but yes, I do acknowledge that the way in which I addressed it was not ideal. And I think the last thing that I want to say is that we need to give our children grace and the space to grow. They are not adults. There are a lot of things that we still get wrong, even as adults, not making the right choices, putting ourselves in sticky situations where you look back in hindsight and you're like, yo, wait again, I shouldn't have allowed that person in my life. I shouldn't have gone there. I shouldn't have given this person money because how did I think they were going to pay me? We make bad calls. Sorry, we make bad calls every day of our lives because we're still growing as well. We still evolving, but somehow when it comes to children, it's like there's an expectation that they need to be these perfect little human beings, and it doesn't work that way. Yes, we need to guide them in a certain direction and they need to be accountable for their actions, but we also need to do that with a grace that we expect others to show to us when we mess up.
Sure. You're speaking about allowing our kids to grow. It was quite difficult for me. I've got a 19-year-old. It was quite difficult for me to understand that now he is an adult, that now he's grown. And now we're at that space whereby we communicate, we negotiate certain things that I'm going out, I'm going to come back at 9. 9 must be 9, not 12. So communication is very important, and I can relate to that. It's very, very important. Osman Nailing.
All right. Thank you so much. It was very interesting to listen to the social worker and the therapist because now they're talking from the professional point of view, and I'm like, no, I don't agree. No, no. But I guess it's an eye opener. It's an eye opener. You know, my belief and my understanding is true love comes with discipline, or true love it's discipline. You know, and in as much as we love our kids, we sometimes get to be overprotective because of the mother's love and all that. But we shouldn't forget to discipline our kids. And discipline mean that you have to head them, like Ntabi said, but they must understand that things are being done certain way, or if you do a certain thing like this, there are consequences. It's important because that also prepares them for life, because we're not going to be here with them forever. So we need to try and give them the best that we can with what we have. And let's refrain from every time when your child wants everything, because you think that, hey, nah, I didn't have this when I grew up, so I don't want to do the same thing to my kids, even if sometimes you can afford that. But just for them, ba se ke ba le mentality one wa hore I know hore every time ha ke batla eng, my mom will get me. I know hore ha ke batla eng ke tla e fumana, because like I'm saying, hore tomorrow you're not going to be there, and o fumana hore they are alone, because ha re tsebe rona bophelo ba ka hosane bo jwang. And here you are, and you have raised a child, you have raised a girl, you have raised a boy, that the only thing they know, there's no disappointments. If I want a certain thing, I know I'm going to get it. Imagine if you are not there and nobody's going to be able to give them this, what is going to happen to them? Obviously they won't be able to take it, because now it's a new thing that they all of a sudden they have to adjust and accept, and it's not going to be easy for them. So true love, it's discipline. And we have to have open conversations more often with our kids. Some of us, we never grew up with that kind of relationship with the parents, because we were afraid of them. We were afraid to even ask simplest things. But we are glad hore hona jwale bana ba rona, we are able to sit down with them and re bue le bona, and ngwana a tsebe hore if you want certain thing, but first you have to work. Hlatswa dijana, then after every day o hlatswa dijana, and then there's 10 rent e re e behang ka monana, there's a certain thing e re e behang ka monana, so we are going to raise a society se leng hore it's very responsible, because tomorrow at the end of the day, our kids, it's part of the society. And what kind of fathers or mothers e tlo ba batswadi ba jwang ka hosane if re sa kgone hore re ba raise hantle, re tlo ba le society se jwang that feels that they are entitled to everything. So the behavior that we see today in schools, the behavior that we see today in the entire society. Those people, they didn't just rock up from anywhere. They come from families. And the question always remains, Hore, what kind of families are these people coming from? When we see the learners in different schools behaving the way that they are behaving, attacking each other, killing each other, threatening and all those things, bullying each other, the question boils down to they come from what kind or what type of families, Ho etsahetse jwang? So it's a very, very great topic, Osinta, and thank you so much for this discussion. And I really hope that it can grow this mental health Indaba to different platforms where you can reach different people, because the whole issue of mental health, especially for us Black society, it's a crisis. It's a serious thing. We have childhood traumas. We have traumas that we grew up with, that we didn't dealt with, that we didn't uh, uh, get a chance ya hore re ye di-therapist-ing, because we only now when we are old ke hona re tsebang hore there's therapist. Our mothers, our fathers, they never knew therapists. They never knew there's a place where you can go. Even if they knew, I mean, I don't think they would have means to be able to attend any kind of sessions like this one. So we are really fortunate that we have people like you who are here, and the panelists as well. Thank you so much, ladies, for your thoughtful insights. It was very, very, I really enjoyed myself. And when most of you were talking here, I'm sure you saw me, I was busy writing, because now I'm thinking, hey, this is a nice topic to discuss on. Hey, this one is a nice one. So I was busy writing here, taking notes and all that. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much to our host and the panelists. Like I said, I really appreciate, and I hope next time we would meet physically and have the very same thing, Ya leboha.
Dr. Ntokozo?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Tabi. Yeah, I'll just say a quick one because most ladies have covered what I wanted to cover, but essentially, managing emotions when correcting my son's behavior, it has been the most challenging part of parenthood. But as he was growing, I was also growing in it with the help from my support structure. So I've had to learn over time to just also constantly remind myself that he's a child, he's growing. I have to be patient with him, and some behavior I will have to change over time. So I have to keep reinforcing Satan principles, and guide him towards correcting that behavior. And I also learned that I must be able to separate his actions from his identity. So when I'm correcting or addressing a behavior, I must not attack his character, because that will also affect his self-esteem. And also, nje, as a parent, I accepted what there's so much I can do in bringing up my son. I can guide him, I can support him, I can model and coach, but ultimately it's his own decisions. And I've always wanted him to be a self-independent person. I didn't want him to be like a compliant robot. So I've always thought of ways to make him realize that why is it important to behave in certain and how it impacts on him and people around him. So now I think as he has grown, he's a big guy now, 22-year-old. I always tell him my responsibility is just to give you tools and teach you values and give you life, but you are the one who can make your choices on how you will behave, and that behavior you will see over time how it impacts you and people around you that you love.
Patricia? Hello, Pat. Hello? She's gone.
Yeah.
Before we close, I've got comments here. I've got a comment from Wandile Mhlongo. He says, "Good evening. As men, we sometimes don't fully grasp the invisible load mothers carry. From your experience, what's one thing you wish men truly understood about the daily reality of balancing motherhood and professional life? Also, Tabby?
We need help. We are not as strong as we want to portray. Yes, we're strong. Yes, we're doing it, but we need help. If only men can come to the party with us and let's do this thing together. And also be don't sometimes men stand on the sideline and they support. And it's even in the language that they speak. It's in your landelimedi abantwana, you know.
Hmm.
It's in ngedimedi ngabantwana. Awungedimedi ngabantwana. You need to take responsibility for your kids. You are doing it, you are the father. So if men can understand that we need help, we need a break sometimes. Just give us a break from motherhood. Take the kids. Let me just go have fun by myself without the kids, without the noise, without them, mother. That's a beautiful way of allowing me to recharge and come back into this position. So if this can just be a partnership, not a help. Don't parent with the mentality that you're helping me, but come from the position that I'm also 100% shareholder in this partnership. Can we do that, please?
Dr. Ntokozo?
Yeah, I also agree with what I will add with and they must lend us an ear. They must listen. Sometimes we just want to vent. It's not always when we are venting. We want advice. We just want to be heard, and we want to be vulnerable. We should be allowed to be vulnerable. As it's already been mentioned, yes, we are strong, but we also break sometimes and we don't have it all figured out. They must know that's why we
Mm,
need the help from them for them to be there, that eye when and they should be sensitive in how they help us get through those difficult and our lowest moments in motherhood.
Hmm. Also, Tabby, I've got a question for you. It's from Angel Dizivuo. She says, "Good evening, ladies. Thank you so much for tonight's discussion. My question is directed to Nthabiseng Lebina. Social work can be emotionally draining. As a mom, where do you draw your strength from, and how do you refill your own cup while pouring into others?"
eh, I use the support that I have. I also allow myself to get out of the social work cap. When I'm at work, I'm at work. When I leave work and I come home, saying I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt. I allow myself to be that, and I allow others to help me as well. So I've come to know that there is me before there's a social worker. So to me, Nthabiseng as a person matters more than Nthabiseng the social worker. And I take care of both. When the social worker in me needs support, I reach out. I also go for counseling myself when there's a need. I have my sister that I would come home, sit with, talk with, cry if I have to. I allow myself to be human. I allow myself to feel, even if it's feeling for the client or feeling my own emotions of the things that I'm going through as a person. I allow that for myself. But also, I've had the grace from God. I'm able to separate as well. When I'm at work, for some reason, for all these years, God has sustained me. I'm able to say, let me leave this here and go to work, because I also approach my work with the mentality that I could be the last hope for that person. So if I fail them, I could be giving them an impression of the entire world. So I always ask for strength. And when I get into my office, I move into that space, regardless of what I could be going through in my life. And believe you me, there's a lot that's happening in my life. I'm going through the most as a person, ne? But I can assure you, the grace has sustained me. I'm able to wear these caps, be a social worker, show up fully for my clients, make an impact, then come back home, allow myself to feel, be vulnerable, sleep if I have to, cry if I have to. So I think my strength has come from understanding that I'm human like everyone else. I've got blood, I bleed, I've got feelings, I feel. So my expectations of myself are very lenient, and I'm very empathetic. If there's one person that I extend my kindness and empathy to, is me.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Nthabi. We've come to the end of our discussion. I want your parting words in 1 minute. Dr. Ntokozo?
No, my parting word is there is no one size fits all when it comes to motherhood. So I am grateful for this opportunity to listen to other mothers and for me to come and share my story, just to echo that what I've always been thinking of, with everyone is a unique way of we all trying to bring life into life. So it's been a pleasure to be part of this panel, and thank you for this opportunity. And I wish all mothers out there happy Women's Month, and they may continue to be the best version of themselves.
Mannehileng, your parting words?
Thank you so much to you, the host, and to the fellow panelists. Thank you so much. My parting words just on this issue that we are talking about, Tori. We are the reflection of our mental state. We are the reflection of our mental state. So we should be in a position, especially our Black community, Black society. Let us learn to take care of our mental well-being, of our mental health, because at the end of the day, it what reflects us as a Black society, and we can see what is happening. We are in a serious problem. We are in a serious crisis if we don't heal from whatever that we are suffering from. There's a lot of trauma that we are carrying, and I think at some point there should be a point where we are able to cut it. Hore, we should cut that chain ya batswadi ba rona. Let us not continue with it, because if we continue ka yona re tlo e fetisetsa baneng ba rona. Bo Sinthabi ke bane di-social worker, mme Lenkoe therapist. So let us make use of them, and this kind of platforms, let us engage more and seek help. Ke a leboha.
Nthabi?
No, I would like to say thank you, Bito, for the invite. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to all the ladies and the insights that you've shared today. And my parting word is one: love yourself. Love is actions. Make sure that in every action, everything that you do, it reflects how much you love yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure whether Pat and Osreta are still there. It looks like they are gone or we've lost them. Osreta? I don't think she's there. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation as Mental Health Indaba. We have drank prodigious quantities from your well of wisdom. I wish we could continue with this conversation nonstop. As Osman Nayland said, we should gather in a physical platform whereby we engage face to face and have an audience that can also participate in this discussion. I'll work towards making that happen. Probably next year we'll be able to do that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for accepting our invitations. Good night and God bless.
Oh, good
Thank you.
night.
Good
Good night.
night.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.